At 10:45 a.m. on the morning of October 28, 2025, the skies over the international waters of the Baltic Sea were tense, but seemingly quiet. Below the cloud line, fishing trawlers went about their business, oblivious to the high-stakes military ballet taking place 30,000 feet above them. The central player in this unseen drama was a NATO E-3 Sentry AWACS, Airborne Warning and Control System, aircraft callsign Ares 7. This was arguably the most critical and expensive intelligence platform operating in the region. The AWACS, easily recognizable by the massive rotating radome mounted atop its fuselage, acts as NATO's eyes and ears, capable of tracking enemy aircraft and maritime vessels over a 250-mile radius, effectively monitoring the entire airspace from Kaliningrad to the Gulf of Finland. On this specific mission, the AWACS was performing a routine but vital electronic sweep, gathering data on Russian air defense frequencies and ground installations along the Russian border. On board, a crew of 17 highly trained specialists, including radar technicians, air defense officers, and electronic warfare (EW) experts from multiple NATO nations, managed the complex surveillance apparatus. The aircraft itself, a modified Boeing 707, is slow, lacks agility, and is considered a high-value, soft target. Its mere presence is a major deterrent, but it also paints a giant target on NATO's back. The protocol for AWACS flights mandates constant escort by fast fighter jets, but due to operational requirements elsewhere, Ares 7 was operating with a reduced escort package. Two Finnish F, divided by A-18 Hornets, positioned 15 miles to the west, maintaining radio silence. The entire crew understood the inherent risk of the operation on October 28, 2025. Any direct encounter could quickly spiral into an international crisis. The mission was crucial for maintaining the electronic integrity of the NATO defense perimeter, collecting data that was essential for intelligence analysis, a task that demanded risk and absolute precision. The AWACS's massive, dome-mounted radar was emitting powerful, constant pulses, making its location known, but its crew relied on the escort and the doctrine of international air safety to keep them safe. This was about to be severely tested. The AWACS, despite its lack of defensive capability, was equipped with a sophisticated set of EW countermeasures, capable of jamming and deceiving incoming missiles, but its primary defense remained distance and diplomatic protocol. The tension in the crew compartment was palpable. Every flicker on the radar screen was analyzed with razor-sharp intensity. The atmosphere was professional, yet charged with the awareness of their proximity to a highly volatile border. At 11:02 a.m. on October 28, 2025, the tension broke. On the main tactical display in the AWACS cockpit, a single high-speed contact flared to life, designated Bandit 1. The contact was a Russian Su-35S flanker E fighter jet, known for its extreme maneuverability and advanced radar systems. Scrambling from a base deep within the Kaliningrad Oblast, the Su-35S was flying at Mach 1.5 and closing fast. The AWACS crew immediately alerted their F, divided by A-18 escorts, but the distance was a critical factor. Ares 7, confirm hostile vector on Bandit 1. Distance 80 miles, closing. The tactical controller, Captain Eva Rostova, reported calmly but urgently. The Russian jet was flying a direct intercept course, aggressive and unmistakable. At 11:07 a.m., the Su-35S closed to 45 miles. Then came the critical, heart-stopping event. The AWACS's internal electronic support measures, ESM, system sounded a piercing, distinctive tone. RWR warning, target acquisition, radar lock. Immediate action. The Russian jet had achieved a hard lock with its Urbis E passive electronically scanned array, PESA, radar, a clear sign that the Su-35S pilot was targeting Ares 7 and preparing for a potential missile launch. The lock was not a simple interrogation. It was a fire control solution, a direct threat to the safety of the NATO aircraft and its crew. The air inside the AWACS instantly thickened. This was a violation of all international safety protocols and a massive escalation of the routine cat-and-mouse game over the Baltic. The AWACS pilot, Major Tom Maverick Jones, immediately initiated the designated countermaneuver for a hostile lock. A sharp, shallow dive combined with the immediate deployment of electronic countermeasures, ECM, The two Finnish F divided by A18 seconds, now racing towards the scene, were still 12 minutes away at best speed. Ares 7 was completely exposed. The Russian jet's lock was persistent, unwavering. The pilot was clearly sending a message. We see you. We own this airspace. And we can end your mission now. The AWACS, designed for surveillance, not combat, felt the vulnerability acutely. The lock tone continued its shrill, incessant warning, drilling into the ears of every crew member. Captain Rostova began coordinating the ECM sequence, relying on automated systems to confuse the Su-35S radar. The tension was almost unbearable, amplified by the realization that a single unauthorized button press in the Russian cockpit could turn the situation into a global incident on October 28, 2025. The time between lock and potential launch felt like an eternity, forcing the NATO crew to make complex, high-pressure decisions based on years of training and split-second analysis of the enemy pilot's intent. As the Russian jet held its aggressive lock, Major Jones initiated the first phase of the counter-EW strategy. At 11:09 a.m. on October 28, 2025, Captain Rostova activated the AWACS's advanced jamming suite. This wasn't standard noise jamming, it was a sophisticated smart jamming technique designed to flood the Su-35S' Urbis E radar with false data. The AWACS transmitted decoy signals, creating the illusion that Ares 7 had suddenly split into 3 separate aircraft on the Russian pilot's radar screen, confusing the targeting computer. Simultaneously, the crew deployed a long, ribbon-like chaff dispenser, scattering thin strips of metallized fiberglass into the jet stream. This chaff created a dense, cloud-like radar reflection, temporarily shielding the AWACS and further complicating the Russian jet's fire control solution. The shrill RWR tone on the AWACS flickered, momentarily indicating a partial loss of lock, a small victory quickly suppressed by the relentless Su-35S pilot. The Russian pilot, highly experienced, immediately switched the Urbis E radar to a track-while scan, TWS mode, attempting to maintain target information amidst the electronic noise. The game had escalated from simple intercept to advanced EW combat. Major Jones simultaneously initiated a second, riskier protocol: voice intimidation. The AWACS established a direct radio link on the established international distress frequency and transmitted a clear, concise message in heavily accented Russian. Bandit 1, this is NATO AWACS, Ares 7. Your radar lock acquisition on a NATO asset over international waters is a clear act of aggression. Confirm immediate cessation of fire control solution. Escort is inbound. The voice was calm, authoritative, and deliberately used the Russian language to emphasize the gravity of the situation. This was the psychological element, putting a human, named voice to the high-value target and confronting the pilot's authorization level. The Russian jet did not respond. The silence was heavier than any words. However, the radar lock, though still present, seemed to slightly weaken. The Finnish F, divided by A18 escorts, now only 5 minutes out, were given the authorization to break radio silence and confirm their inbound status, further amplifying the psychological pressure on the Russian pilot. The AWACS was effectively using its own systems and the looming threat of kinetic response to break the standoff, relying on the fact that the Russian government likely did not want a shooting war over the Baltic Sea on October 28, 2025. The standoff reached its climax at 11:15 a.m. on October 28, 2025. The Finnish F, divided by A-18 seconds, appeared on the AWACS's tactical display less than 20 miles away and closing at top speed. The Russian Su-35S pilot, having maintained the lock for 8 agonizing minutes, was now faced with an undeniable reality. The odds were about to shift drastically, moving from a single vulnerable target to a potential 3-on-1 engagement. The AWACS's persistent electronic countermeasures and the direct radio challenge had clearly complicated the pilot's decision matrix. The pilot's mission was likely to test the response envelope and assert dominance, not to start a war. Then, this happened. At the precise moment, the F divided by A-80, 18 seconds crossed the 18-mile range. The piercing tone of the RWR warning on the NATO AWACS suddenly ceased. The hard lock was broken. The Su-35S pilot executed a sharp, high G-turn to the east, breaking off the intercept and disappearing back towards the Kaliningrad border at Mach 1.6. The abruptness of the departure was as aggressive as the initial approach. The Finnish Hornets arrived moments later, taking up close escort positions on the now shaken Ares 7. The tension instantly evaporated, replaced by a wave of exhausted relief among the AWACS crew. The mission had been successful, not because of a dogfight, but because of the calculated application of electronic warfare, psychological pressure, and strategic timing. The AWACS, the slow-moving electronic hub, had effectively won a non-kinetic engagement against one of Russia's most advanced fighter jets. The outcome was a clear signal. NATO's assets, though seemingly vulnerable, were capable of defending themselves through layers of technology and robust, well-rehearsed protocols. The incident over the Baltic on October 28, 2025 provided invaluable real-time data on the Su-35's radar capabilities and the pilot's psychological breaking point, a form of intelligence far more valuable than any routine surveillance sweep. The entire crew knew they had stared down a potentially catastrophic event and emerged victorious through sheer professionalism and technological superiority in the information domain. The engagement between Ares 7 and the Su-35 was not a fluke. It was a perfect snapshot of the ongoing high-stakes game over the Baltic. The successful defense confirmed several critical strategic lessons for NATO. First, the effectiveness of the AWACS's smart jamming suite exceeded expectations, proving its worth against advanced PACE radars like the Urbis E. The ability to generate multiple false targets confused the fire control system long enough for the escorts to close the distance. Second, the voice intimidation protocol proved highly effective. Confronting the pilot directly with the legal and political gravity of the situation created a significant psychological hurdle that constrained their freedom of action. The Russian pilot was forced to choose between executing an unauthorized attack and disengaging. They chose the latter. Third, the incident highlighted the critical importance of force presence and readiness. The mere fact that the Finnish Hornets were quickly scrambled and inbound at maximum speed was the ultimate deterrent. The Russian pilot was operating on a knife's edge, calculating risk versus gain. When the risk of kinetic retaliation became imminent, they disengaged. The strategic value of this engagement, recorded in its entirety by the AWACS's onboard systems, was immense. It provided NATO with a complete electronic signature of the Su-35's operating at aggression levels, a database of information that would be immediately used to refine EW countermeasures and training protocols. The outcome over the Baltic on October 28, 2025 was a testament to the fact that in modern warfare, the fastest jet does not always win. Sometimes, the winner is the one with the best information, the steadiest nerve, and the most sophisticated electronic defenses. The incident, though resolved peacefully, set a new, higher standard for Russian aggression and NATO's response posture in the increasingly tense air corridor over the Baltic Sea. The threat of a direct confrontation remains, but the rules of engagement have been subtly, but fundamentally, redefined.